I said, John, these tennis courts are full. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Differently Wired Show. I'm your host, as always, Max Derrat. Welcome to episode 58, When Crisis Strikes. Yes, it's when I say crisis, I'm talking like Crisis on Infinite Earth crisis. When I hear that banded around in terms of comic book lore. I don't know what it means. I'm sure Syb will explain it to me later. But anyways, I'm your host as always, Max Derrat. It's good to be with you all again. Your friendly neighborhood Simpson skin. And joining me as always, he is PhD. He knows the cost to be the boss. He is John Tucker. John, you doing okay?
I'm doing wonderfully well, Max. Sun is streaming out here. It looks like a really sunny day from the window that's way above my head. So I'm looking forward to getting out into the sun before it goes away.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada.
Okay, I'm just wondering why you say the sun is out, because it's nearly dark here.
Really, it's amazing. Right here, it's farther south than.
John, nobody can hear you.
I was just standing up looking out the window.
Okay.
The other way.
Okay. Yeah, I was just hoping you're not hallucinating or anything, because, with everything that's going on, I'm just...
Well, there's always a bit of that,
Well, of course. I mean, you're the dealer here. I depend on you to keep me sane. And speaking of keeping me sane, I don't know, that was a bad segue. He is the lead content creator at the Triple S League. He's our special guest today. If I were to compare him to a character from Game of Thrones, he would be Littlefinger. Not because he's conniving, because he's not. He has his ear to the ground. He is Sybsidian. Welcome back, man.
Hello, nice to see you. Not the head. Ash ends up doing most of the editing. I'm just the brains person who does most of the looking up and dealing in secrets thing.
Oh, so you're the pen to his teller.
Mm-hmm.
All right, right on. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I have these three with me today because, with the fact that everybody's sort of in isolation right now, I'm trying to find ways to bring people together so that way we're not feeling so lonely. We can depend on each other and keep each other entertained and safe during this crisis. Before we actually start talking about crises, I do have to do the usual stuff just off the top. Now, if I can get my graphics to work with me. First of all, some of you might not be aware of the fact that we do have an audio version of this show, and it is currently available on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, I think Stitcher, if I'm not mistaken. It's in a whole bunch of different places. iHeartRadio. If you want to get this show on your portable device, be it your phone, your iPod, Android, whatever, you can do that right now. There's some links in the description box below, or if you just do a general search on any of your podcast providers, you will find us.
Can I get it on my shoe phone?
Your shoe phone? Jesus. How do you not get yourself tangled when you're walking down the street?
It's cordless, obviously.
You never saw Maxwell Smart, right? Did you?
I don't think he did. I don't think he's John. I don't think he's in our age bracket here.
John, need I remind you I'm 26?
I mean, I grew up on that
That's
show.
True.
But,
yeah.
Hey, John, do you know what a Doom Eternal is?
Absolutely not.
Right. Okay. Now the scales have become balanced again. Anyways, back to what I was saying. We also have a Discord server. I know many of you already know this, but there's always a chance that somebody might be listening to this show for the first time and might not know about this. Yes, we do have a Discord server. If, you want to go and meet up with people that are like-minded, that are differently wired, and provide each other support, we have a Discord server just for you. If you click on the link in the description box below, you can go to my server, which is called Max Derrat Server, and don't you forget it. Excuse me. If you go there, you can see a whole bunch of text chats on the left. You see one right there that says Asperger's chat, mental health chat. Just click on whatever one you want, put in a request, and somebody will usually be there to talk to you. And if there isn't in any of those chats, one thing I'd like to recommend to you, I should probably get rid of this particular. Oh my God. If if you do go into the server, what you will see is on the right side of the screen is a bunch of different names highlighted in green. And if you click on their names and direct message them, those are the members of the support squadron. They're listeners. So people that will talk to you about whatever's on your mind and sort of, get you through whatever mental health difficulties you might be dealing with. So, also, if I let me see if I get this all right. Oh yeah, Subscribe Star. If you guys like the content that we're doing here, whether it's the Differently Wired show that John and I are doing, or any of the other videos on this channel, please consider going there and checking out what we have to offer. Depending on how much you donate, you get various different rewards. For example, if you choose the $2 tier reward, you'll get access to the after show for this show, which I'll talk about in a second. Movie night. If you donate at $5, you get it 1 day early access to my videos. So yeah, if you like the content here and you think it's worth supporting, please consider going over and checking it out. There is a link to it in the description box below. And finally, like I just said, there is an after show for the show every single week at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so 1 hour after the show starts. If you want to just hang out with me and the other Subscribe Star supporters, talk about whatever's on your mind, you can do that, all just for the low cost of $2 a month. It's damn near free. Okay, so main topic. Oh boy, guys, it's amazing how much the world can change in just a week or two, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I felt it was appropriate to make this the topic of this show, considering everything that's going on. When I was explaining this to John and Syb just before we started. When I say crisis, it could be any type of crisis. Like, obviously, there's the stuff that's going on right now, which we cannot talk about by name, so we're going to have to treat it like Voldemort, that which must not be named, otherwise we get demonetized. That whole thing is causing a lot of people different types of stress and anxiety. But also, when I say crisis, you think mental health crisis, right? Like, whether it's related to the stuff going on right now or not, people sometimes get overwhelmed and they don't know how to deal with it properly. So I'm not exactly sure which one we should start with. I mean, Syb, you were telling us before we started the show about, like, you had some particular information that you think might be useful to people that might not get through mainstream news or something. Like, what do you got?
So, well, I mean, I'm fairly well connected as always, and my connections aren't just limited to the game world. But I can say that just as a general thing to calm people's nerves, because what I'm seeing is there are some people who are really panicking about this, like really, really, really panicking about this. First advice I always have in any and every situation is not to panic,
Yeah.
because there's never been any situation that has benefited from panic, at least not when you're on at least when you're not on the receiving end of the problems that are going on. If you're wanting to cause panic, then yeah, panic is very useful to you, but this is not something that we want, and that you want in your life every day here, because this is and this is really what I strongly encourage. Do not panic. Panic is your enemy, and sometimes it's hard, but you have to keep telling yourself that no, there's no point in being panicked right now, because it will not help anything. But to kind of alleviate some of the stuff, because we went from, and we still are under, as far as YouTube is concerned, that there is no problem going on. I can't remember. It's not a Marmaduke commercial. It's a picture of a dog in a house, and everything's just burning around him, and it's a little cartoon dog, and he's just sitting there, and his little thought bubbles like, everything is fine, everything is fine. That's how that was and is the official statement by many different places of power at the moment, especially YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. And they don't want you to share stuff. They don't want you to talk about stuff. My mom sends me a lot of stuff on Facebook Messenger, and she's the only person is the only reason why I still use Facebook Messenger, is just to keep in contact with my mom, because I mean, nobody else that I know uses Facebook right now. But she'll send me links all the time. and about a third of the links, half of the links get through. Everything else is just goes, this person's trying to send you something that is not officially recognized by blah 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 blah. For real information, you need to go check this website by this government agency. And it's like, thanks, that's really helpful.
Yeah, don't trust this non-mainstream source. Trust the CBC, the government-funded media.
Yeah. And so it's really disturbing to see that. But we went from everything is fine to now it's wall-to-wall coverage on these news stations. But strangely enough, you as an individual still are not allowed to talk about it. You're certainly not allowed to like post things from certain areas and whatnot. Still that stuff gets taken down all the time. But I can assure you that there are several really promising treatments on that are being worked on and are being used right now. Like literally, this is an ongoing thing. There is really great progress being made on multiple fronts. It's not just a single front or two fronts. This isn't the front of the you break it down into treatment and vaccine, right? Vaccine prevents you from getting the thing, and a treatment helps you to get through it once you have it. The most progress is being made right now on the treatment of it. So you still want to be safe. You still want to practice best practices and wash your hands. Like wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Use soap, use water. Try not to touch foreign objects when you're in the grocery store. Don't touch things. Like only touch the thing that you're picking up to put in your cart. I know I'm terrible for like picking things up and like turning them to like check the labels and go through the ingredients and that kind of stuff. I'm horrible with that. But you want to try and be cognizant of the less things that you touch is the less things that are involved in that sandwich of spread that can happen, right? If you're making a sandwich and I tell you, hey, there's a sandwich, you normally put like 20 things on it, right? And one of those things has been contaminated. Well, if you only put on two things, your risk of contamination is very, very low. And that's kind of the step that is that we're trying to encourage, is that by being cognizant of that yourself and then as well as to everybody around you, the less times that something will be connected. So keep away from touching your face and that kind of stuff. Still continue to do that, but don't freak out because it's the end of the world, because it's not the end of the world. It is, in fact, they're approaching on some very, very decent treatments very quickly. So we'll start to get more news of that as these tests start to ratchet up. And right now, it's just stay positive. Like look at these treatments and go good. I'm glad they're working on it. Don't be like some of these people and stations where they're like, oh, this will never work. Well, you don't know. Nobody knows if it doesn't work. All we know is that it could maybe work and it could maybe not work. There's no sense in being a doomsday, prophet by just running up and down saying nothing will work. There's no point in trying. It's like, well, how do you know unless you try? So that's the message that I want to get out first and foremost is there is promising stuff on multiple fronts, both the vaccine treatment and multiple different types of treatment, and they're all like coming together pretty well. And so that's really the first thing is like, don't panic, help is on the way kind of thing.
Wonderfully said, Sybsidian. Sybsidian, my bad. Before, I just have a few things I want to say to that, but I think John wanted to interject.
No.
Oh, okay. So just a few things that I wanted to add on top of that. In terms of like the different surfaces that you touched, I don't know if some of you guys might have noticed this while you're watching the news or just scrolling through your Twitter feed or whatever, but certain surfaces that might be contaminated with corona things that might be contaminated with the things that we can't talk about, it sort of stays on certain surfaces longer than others. So one thing I would caution you guys to be wary of is when you touch steel surfaces. From what I understand, surfaces that are contaminated with the thing, they tend to stay on there for about 72 hours. That's what I read. More or less, it's around that a number. Cardboard, it's about 24 hours. Plastic, I think it's a little bit less than that. So just be wary of what types of surfaces that you're touching. Second of all, just in regards to what you're saying, Sab, about different types of treatments and vaccines, what's the name of that thing that Trump is saying that might be working that treats like malaria or something? And then Fauci's like, "Oh no, don't do that. It's not approved by the government." Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So this is an incredibly hard word for me to say. So I'm just going to link it right here in the chat of the channel. Um, it's I think it's pronounced prochloroquine and hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah.
Those are two things that, again, these are just two of about I'd say about five different routes that they're currently trying for treatment that are all showing promise in one way or another. But these ones are especially doing quite well. And this isn't some like this was noticed. So I'll give you a little bit of a heads up on where this was noticed.
Okay.
This particular crisis thing is everywhere now. It's like you look at a map and pretty much the entire world's red right now. There is one area that had a lot of cases or has a lot of spread, but very little deaths, very, very small number of deaths, and very, very small number of intensive care units. In Italy and other places, the intensive care is so big and there's so many people and there's such a high percentage of people that are suffering when you look at other places in the world and their numbers are super low. So what's the main difference? And so people we started to look at those what that was, and there were many people who started to like figure this out really quickly, that there's this huge drop in serious cases in this one part of the world. And they started to look into that. And what's that one part of the world? What is the one thing that they have in common? And the one thing that they have in common is that they all suffer from malaria and they're all treated for or given shots against malaria constantly. So people started to look into this, and there was a couple of university level groups that started to run some tests, and they said, "Hey, I think we have something here. This seems to drop the conditions and make this thing, nothing more than a kind of a regular type of flu, which you get over pretty quickly."
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where it started at. And I believe it was the Koreans started to implement its usage a little bit.
Hmm.
But I might be wrong on that. But someone started to implement some usage, and they had enough positive feedback that they said, yes, we're going to talk about this. There are people who are like, hey, you can't talk about this yet because it's in trial. But these people are the same. Like, their job is to only to say yes once 100,000 people have been tested in a certified test ranging 8 months to 2 years, and that you can't say anything before that time period because you don't know for sure, and saying yes would confirm that you think you know for sure, and then that would open you up to lawsuits and just all this like stupidity, right?
Hmm.
It's really what it is. It's just stupidity when it comes to just the people going, oh no, you can't say that this is a good thing. It's
Wait.
like,
Hold on. You're saying that bureaucrats don't know what they're doing?
well, it's yeah, I guess it
How
boils
dare
down
you,
to it.
Max?
Please, please, Mr. Trudeau, please. I love you. I love Canada. Please don't take down my stream.
It's not so much bureaucrats. It's just it's also like false hope, right? You don't want to give false hope because some people view that as a bad thing. When I mean, we know from studies that giving somebody any kind of a hope and having them just generally be more positive about their situation
Hmm.
always leads to better outcome. Yeah, it might not cause a cure for something that is causing devastation. But and John, you might know this. There was a study that showed that false positives can end up creating the disease. Are you aware of the study at all?
I'm not aware of that study, but I'm aware of the placebo effect, which is
Hmm.
always there and sometimes quite powerful. So
Hmm.
any given clinical trial, the control group doesn't change. The treatment group may have a good effect, and the
Mhm.
placebo effect is somewhere between those. And the placebo effect is somebody taking a sugar pill, thinking they're going to get better,
Mhm.
and they do because of that
Yeah.
mental gymnastic that's gone on.
Mhm.
So the mind over matter thing is powerful. The placebo effect is measurable, and quite often, almost always, there to some extent.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So and I think this is something to be like very cognizant of is that there's this wonderful ability for people to be hopeful and to encourage hope in their situation that can cause positive outcomes. And this is something that I don't understand why there's so many people that are negative about this. Um,
Clicks.
we just well, I mean, it's not only this. We just yesterday, some governor banned all trials on it. Said nope, no trials in my in my state. And to me, I'm sitting there going, why say that? Like what we know for sure about this particular drug is that it doesn't kill people outright whenever they just use it. Like whenever they use it under medical supervision. Let's just be clear on that. Don't be like there's somebody who died from drinking a
Oh
chemical that
God.
had a name that kind of looked a little similar. Like it had an H and a Y, and there was an X in there somewhere, and there might have been a cube, although probably was just a P. And they just drank a cup of this stuff. It's like, I mean, how do you eat? Like, no, don't do that. Don't be like that's
Jesus.
Darwin Award for you right there. Don't do that. But why would you say no? We know that there's a treatment that may or may not work, and if you take it, it won't kill you, but if you take it, there's a small chance that it'll help. Why would you in any case in if that's the case, in any case, why would you say no? It's pure madness. It's like, well, this might help or it'll do nothing. So it might help or do nothing. I'm going to ban it so that it doesn't have the chance to maybe help.
Mhm.
Like I don't that goes right over my head as a logical process.
Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to certain substances in your home or like anything you can buy at a store that is
Mhm.
meant to clean, rule of thumb, don't drink it.
Don't drink.
Very
I
simple.
Oh,
know that lighter fluid is really strong.
Just reminds me. I just was. You guys ever see Top Secret, where he drinks the gasoline and the one guy just starts laughing hysterically? Ugh, that's disgusting. What is it? Gasoline. Yeah. Anyways, Top Secret's a good movie. But yeah, like what you're just saying there, absolutely, Sybsidian. What we should actually all try and aspire to do, just not just for ourselves but everybody else, is sort of encourage a sense of positivity. And
mhm,
thankfully, in the last couple of days, even though like a lot of people that might be watching this right now, they've been particularly stressful for me. What I found is just even in these dark moments, I found that when I'm hanging around other people and we're all trying to cheer each other up, it's a really special experience. It's a time to take a situation like this where everybody's being like you're saying, Seth, just panicking and freaking out and making something
mhm,
truly magical about it. And thankfully, uh, that's what's been going on. And also, just to the people that are in the chat right now, if you're concerned about like my health or John's health or Sybsidian's health, and you want to sort of encourage that positivity and sort of the medical benefits that come along with that, may I suggest that you just the people that are in the chat right now, just please stroke our egos, just tell us all how handsome we are, because that will, if you want us to survive, if you want us to live, you should probably do that, unless you don't want us to live and you're a bad person or something. Just saying. Anyway, so so like before we move on to sort of just talking about the mental health aspect of all this, is there anything else that you think is relevant to bring up?
soap and water. We can't emphasize this enough. Soap breaks down cellular walls that are um, uh, it's just how it works. It's why it's been so useful. Um, Out of all of the things, it does not last very long on your hands. So as long as you are washing your hands quite consistently, like whenever you're touching anything that is foreign to you, if you're in your home, and you haven't been out recently, and you haven't received anything inside recently, you should be okay to touch anything in your home.
Mm.
Because if it's in your home, there's a chance that you already have it. You're probably the one who brought it in. But as long as you're washing yourself with soap and water, you can take a damp little damp a cloth or a sponge with some soap and water. Just rub that over any of your groceries that you bring home if you're really worried about it. And this is something that I definitely encourage for anybody who's taking care of an elderly person, because they're really the ones at risk.
Yeah.
And you want to you want to go out of your way just to make sure that everything is okay. But that soap and water, what that does is it breaks down the cell bleeds open, and then it dies. And that's how that works. That's why soap and water is one of the best things for you, and how you can best prevent yourself from getting it and or spreading it to other people. And again, really just don't touch your eyes or your nose. It's very difficult, I know, because it's kind of a habit. I'm a chin thinker, right? Like hand on, like the philosopher's statue,
Yeah.
with his, like, I'm constantly like leaning on my hand. It's like I've been trying not to do that constantly. It's like, no, stop, no, don't do that.
Do I like Kirk or do I like Picard?
Right. It's like which pose should I sit in here when I'm thinking, oh no, don't touch the face, But yeah, that's, like, as far as prevention, that's as much as you can do currently. If you're in kind of the danger bracket, you can bump things up. You can wear a mask, you can wear goggles, but all of those things is just one additional step that if you're not really like educated on, if you don't really know how to like decontaminate your gear, then that's going to be a little bit of an issue as well. So,
Right.
like, just take some time to look stuff up. Get it from like good doctors, like people who have, actual medical facilities that have put up like how to's and guides and stuff like that. If somebody's telling you that squirrel dust will kill the disease, you're probably most definitely looking at the wrong place for help.
Squirrel
So,
dust doesn't help.
no, doesn't help at
darn.
all.
Oh darn.
Yeah.
I went to
I got to
those.
tell all those squirrels to go back home.
Stop. I was going to make a joke about nuts, but let's just not go there. Listen, everybody.
Let's send the squirrels home with their nuts.
With their nuts. Hello to all the people in the chat right now, to all the people that are saying that we all look gorgeous. Thank you. Saying the obvious, but thank you. Even though I already told you to say it. I just want to say to the people that are watching right now, there's about 70 of you watching right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we move into the other parts of the show, we might get to one mailbag question, and then we also want to talk about just mental health crises more broadly. I just want to say to the people in the chat, do you have any particular advice that you'd like other people to know about what to do in terms of a crisis, be it the stuff that we're going through right now globally, or just in regards to mental health crises? Put it in the live chat right now. And that way, if we have some time at the end of the show, we can read your comments out loud and discuss them. Okay, so let's sort of move away from that a little bit, because Syb, you've done a wonderful job talking about all that and giving us all this relevant information. I sort of want to bring John in a little bit more in regards to the mental health aspect of this. Whenever any type of crisis happens, whether it's something that affects mankind or just you personally or maybe a family member, and you are differently wired, there is a tendency for us to be a lot more sensitive to these types of things, and we can melt down, maybe not manage the emotions very well, make it affect the rest of our life. And John, with the type of profession that you're in, I'm sure that you deal with these types of crises all the time. You've certainly helped me in the past in that regard. What is, like, when this sort of thing happens, what are sort of your first principles in regards to dealing with this sort of thing, and what advice do you give to these people?
Well, I should say, I'll answer that question from a different kind of angle. What I've been pleased to note over the last couple of weeks is that my clients are tending to turn to, okay, that's what's going on outside. What can I do to do something useful during this time? If I'm, say, stuck home, okay, that gives me an opportunity to do this or to do that or to do more of this. And I'm seeing a lot more of that kind of um, doing the best you can. You know, it's the fate hands you a lemon, you make lemonade. You do what you're faced with. You can't go out, so you do something different. And in a way, some people are seizing it as an opportunity to do more learning, to do more reflecting on things, to do some research on things that they wouldn't normally have to do. And the other thing, and this is neat, I am encouraging people to take advantage of the moment to indulge themselves in something they would like to do that they don't have much time to do. Some sort of habit or hobby or reading or connecting more with some friends than they used to. So it is actually an opportunity to um, connect up in a productive way. And so that makes me think of what's happening in many parts of Canada. There's these Facebook pages called caremongering, where people are helping out. How can we get together? Churches are circulating notes. There's a priest in Grimsby, Ontario, who has pictures of all his parishioners on all the pews,
Oh,
and he conducts mass online. It's a stream, a live stream of mass. He's the only guy in the church, but all the pictures of the parishioners are there, and those that want to sign in can sign in. So there's like a creative response that pulls people together, that a sharing of a human need and a recognition of a common crisis or a common issue.
yeah.
Hey, what can we do to help each other? There's a very nice spirit abroad of of goodwill that seems to have taken hold all over the world, really.
Yeah, it's sort of it reminds me, and this is sort of a poor example, but it'll get across the general message. There's this famous graphic novel called Watchmen. It's probably the most celebrated graphic novel of all time. And at the end of the book, so spoiler alert for those who have never read Watchmen, I highly recommend you do. So feel free to just mute the next 10 seconds or so. At the end of the Watchmen, what one of the main characters realized was that humanity needed a collective enemy to fight, so that they don't fight ourselves and lead to nuclear war. And so in that case, there's a lot of moral stuff right there. But what I'm trying to get to at with that example is that now that we have this common enemy that we got to fight, what John has just pointed out as an example is that there's a whole bunch of people that are coming together and being creative about demonstrating what it means to be human and helping each other out
Yeah,
in really wonderful ways, and showing, hey, this is what we can do with technology. Just because we can't get together physically, we can do so
Mhm.
digitally.
yep.
But yeah, aside from that though, John, like when it comes to your clients, like what, just going back like to what I said before, like what are sort of the approaches that you recommend people that are in some sort of mental health crisis to do, whatever it may be?
Well, I sometimes what will happen, and this conversation's taken place in different ways in the last few days. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I should do this. I should." I said, and I say, "No, hang on a second. What opportunity is there here?" So I try to get people to focus on what they can usefully do. Uh, Happy thing, it may be for somebody else, it may be a bit more for them than usual, but it's rather than focus on, oh, I have to worry about this, I have to worry about that, I have to worry about something else. I try to turn them toward uh, a direction that feels happy and productive. And sometimes it's tricky because maybe people are feeling duress. So you might have to pick out a very small change in the way they're facing the day, or when they get up or when they go to sleep, or it may be any sort of thing that moves to that enhances their sense of agency. In other words, what we have now is a feeling that nobody's in control of much. But that's not true.
Right.
Everybody's in control of what they do and how they react to stuff. Once they get over their initial feeling, they say, okay, I feel bad about this thing. What can I do that I can do
Yeah.
something about. So, you know what I mean? It's like it may not be huge, but it has to be something you have some say in, because otherwise you're like lost on an ocean of somebody else's waves. You know, you don't know what
Yeah.
to do. So you pick a thing you can do, and that enhances your sense. It might be anything. It might be more art. It might be more videos. It might be feeding the birds. It might be whatever. But it's something you have control over. So that's what you want to pay more attention to. You might be, oh, now's my chance to do jigsaw puzzles. Great, do jigsaw puzzles. You have control over that to some extent.
Mm. Yeah, you could. Yeah, see, the thing is, when you have all these different responsibilities and worries that are plaguing your mind all at once, it's really difficult for you to step back from it. And this is, something that you said a lot.
There's a couple of great suggestions just appeared in the chat room along the lines that we're talking about,
Okay.
Max.
Uh,
Just have a look over there.
okay. Jackass 315 says, grow some easy foods or herbs, relaxing hobby. Yeah, my mother really enjoys it. She has one of those arrow gardens. You guys see those when you go to the store? Like it allows you to grow plants a whole lot faster. My mother's enjoyed it very much ever since myself and my dad got her a couple over a year ago.
And I will tell you what, if you can grow vanilla beans in your location, that is like a very, very profitable thing to do. Oh my goodness.
You know what?
They're quite expensive. Little tubes of vanilla
Yeah.
cost a bunch.
Yeah, about $30 a tube. So, good stuff.
It's probably more profitable to grow weed, but we don't encourage that.
No, but that's a great thought. The whole idea of growing something is giving you a sense of agency and real life connection to growth. There's a spiritual end to that that's very fulfilling.
Yeah, just
So that's a really great suggestion.
especially like if you were to get like one of those arrow gardens, you can do that sort of stuff inside, gardening inside. So even while you're not able to really go outside that much, you can still have that connection to Mother Nature. So yeah, that's
Absolutely. And if all that stuff escapes you, you can sprout beans.
yeah. And he also says, and might save you some money, plus boosts health and immune function, and free food. Tomatoes are quite easy. Yeah, and it's just a generally good skill to have. I mean, like, who doesn't want to
Very
learn?
solid thing to do. Very, very creative and energy developing. So it's lovely.
Riley Smith says, something my therapist suggested to do is set a schedule to keep myself busy because I was struggling with my sexual assault and this virus. It's really helped. Well, I'm so terribly sorry to hear that you're going through that, Riley. That sounds absolutely horrendous, and I hope that you have good support mechanisms in place. It seems like you have a therapist. That's good. If you ever need to talk to anybody, and
well, and the thing about a schedule is, if the schedule is kind of working for you, you begin to internalize routines, and routines and protocols are reassuring. They give you a sense of agency because you don't have to think hard about what must I do next. You're not faced with that what must I do next anxiety. Oh, this is time for tea. This is time to get up. This is time to go to bed. So once you do those things in a ritual way, an habitual way, it actually gives you a sense of control. Now you're free to think creatively in those times that you've decided to do that, rather than wonder what you're going to do all day. So the schedule has a lot of benefits that way.
Yeah, and it's probably good to if you have trouble setting a schedule for yourself, now's a good time to actually try and persevere. Now that you're staying inside, if you want to try and work in something productive into your routine, do it now. Like I intend to get a whole lot more reading done now that I'm not going to be. I didn't go out much beforehand, but the stuff that I did do, I'm not going to be doing now, so I can fit that in. Let's see. Shy Violet says, think about what made you happy before the crisis. Bring that thing back into your life. Focus on your feelings and health.
Wonderful. Wonderful idea. That is very positive way to do stuff, because you're drawing on resources that actually are there for you.
Kovled says, I shall start a weed farm. No, we don't condone that. We were just joking, Kovlad. If you do that, we'd have no connection. We disavow, yada, yada, yada.
Go on. Fill your boots.
God, John,
Go 2 weeks.
John, please don't. Just please. I want to. Okay. Athena God.
Okay, I resemble that remark.
You resemble weed?
No, that remark.
Oh, the remark. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Athena, goddess of wisdom, says the virus is the aliens from Independence Day. I guess. I mean, do we solve
We
the?
will not quietly go into the night. We will survive.
Because today is
I don't
our.
know the rest of that speech.
Yeah, are we going to defeat the coronavirus by inserting a floppy disk into a completely foreign alien computer system? The movie was made in 1996. Life was so much simpler back then. King Weeby, no, we disavow that too. Jackass 315 says you can grow potatoes in a sack.
Oh,
Yep.
Max, you intended to have a mailbag topic. Do you want to do that one tonight or no?
Yeah, we can do that. It's quick enough. I'll do it in a second. I just want to finish reading what Jackass says. You can grow potatoes in a sack of compost. Really easy, almost zero effort. Yeah, I should probably know something about that, considering potatoes are my favorite food, and I am Irish, but I don't. Maybe that's something I can learn about. Can you all see what Erupol says? Can you all see what happens in the world now? It's like Death Stranding. People can't leave their houses, and we need people to transfer stuff. Yeah, Death Stranding is a great game to play right now if you really want to immerse yourself in the what's the phrase I'm looking for? But you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay, sure. We have a few minutes left. Let's just go to the mailbag, and then we'll close off with that. So, guys, sometimes, when we do have mailbag emails sent in to us, we like to read them on the air, whether it has to do with a particular story from your life, if you have a question for us, if you want to offer pieces of advice, whatever it may be, as long as it's related to something that has to do with being differently wired, we want to hear from you. And you can send us all that sort of stuff to us at any time to this email address that you see on screen right now, which is maxderrat, all one word, at yahoo.ca. That's maxderrat at yahoo.ca. So we do have just one email question today because I figured, the main topic would take up the majority of the discussion. And this one's relatively short. It comes to us from Skyla, and Skyla writes, I'm not sure if I have BDD, but ever since the start of the year, I've gotten more and more extremely dissatisfied with the way I look, specifically my face and hair. This feeling has never been so strong before. What are your thoughts on body dysmorphia, and have you ever experienced anything like it? Thank you. Love your content. Personally, yeah. It's not something that a lot of people, in fact, I don't think very many people know about it. I am actually quite self-conscious about the way I look. I always have been. And I've done sort of unhealthy stuff in the past. Unfortunately, I've never actually sought help for it. It's sort of always just something that's been there, but I never really tackled it. So I don't really think I have much advice to. Well, one thing I sort of can say, related back to something that John said before, is that you got to realize what is within your power to do. Like if you have a whole bunch of stuff going on and your day is busy and you have a whole bunch of responsibilities to attend to, and still, you have those problems, you got to learn to sort of give yourself a bit of credit. If you do have free time and, you should be eating healthy or going out for a walk or doing some form of exercise, then push yourself to do it if you have the free time. But, just if you find yourself being just busy with the rest of life and it's not, personal body image and stuff like that is not something that you can get to right away, you got to just sort of train yourself to realize that certain things are within your control and certain things aren't within your control.
Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of experience with just not having a very good connection with my body. It's like I don't really, like, if I see myself in the mirror, it's like it takes me a minute to realize, oh wait, that's me. Just having a complete disconnection on the physical side of things, which is why I think I'll make such a good candidate for full AI transference over to some technology in the future. It just makes more sense, and I'm already half a computer anyways. But the way I've dealt with it on a personal level is to just kind of like not really think about it. I get into a habit of like, doing the daily, like, brushing teeth, cleaning face, washing hands, washing face, keeping hair proper. But then I don't really like pay attention to it outside of it. But
Yeah, that's pretty much me too. Yeah.
yeah, so that, I mean, just stick to a routine is what is something I would suggest. And then finding somebody who can actually speak to your own beauty, that's something else that you should be looking for. Um, because that helps, and that's where community falls in. It's not somebody who, it's not always a lover. Sometimes it's just a friend, or somebody who can, give you that praise that you need every couple of weeks, or hours, whichever one it is. For me, it's like, man, but I'm a guy. I don't really like fall into that stereotypical thing. Um, but for other people, I know that is something that they need more of. And I try to be cognizant of trying to, like, praise people that I know. I learned very quickly, don't compliment random strangers, because you're just giving out random compliments in a day. People will always think there's something behind it.
Mm.
I legitimately tried.
Yeah, I have to go pretty soon.
Oh.
So, but there's a website I'd like to mention before I
Mhm.
check out of the call. If people Google BDD, one of the highly placed websites is the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, which does a wonderful job of dealing with body dysmorphic disorder. Now, Schuyler describes what is very congruent with what they have as body dysmorphic disorder. So it's a very good chance that you should explore that a little further.
Mhm.
But this particular thing I'm mentioning has one of these little self-tests where you can get a kind of a reassurance that is there, signs and symptoms, and so on and so forth. So clearly, if you guys can work and push it aside and carry on with routine, that's great. But if you are kind of at the point where you need to objectify and get information, then going to a site like that will say, okay, let me study this like a researcher, like a student. Let me find out about what is this about? What can I do with this stuff? And it's just a thing to do. It's like not a thing to get emotional about. It's just a thing to do. So you can kind of make a project out of it. And this is a really great site, Anxiety and Depression Association of America. I just wanted to make sure that
Mhm.
particular reference was mentioned, so that people who need it can go and grab onto it.
Perfect. And it is now 7:50, and that means John has to go, and I think that'd be a good time to close things off. So, John,
Okay.
thank you as always. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Max. I love the show, and I'll be back.
All right, stay safe. Bye-bye.
I will.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we close off the show, I just want to remind you, before all you start tuning out, there are 68 of you watching live, and we actually went as high as 80 today. That's really great. But before you go, just make sure, you hit that like button. It's free, and it helps us out a lot. So change that ratio. Make that like ratio higher than the people watching right now. That'd be really cool. Because, when you do hit that like button, Sybsidian will confirm this. He's a fellow YouTuber. It tells the YouTube algorithm that our content is worth watching. It passes it around to more people. And who knows, there might be somebody out there that's struggling with something in regards to mental health that might need some sort of support, like the stuff that John and I do here. So please just hit that like button. It's free. It's really easy to do. Okay, and just want to remind you guys, to the people that are supporting me on Subscribestar, we do have an after show, which I will be in there in about 5 minutes. It's in the Discord, so when you do support me on Subscribestar, if you scroll down the text chats, you'll see that text chat there, the one that says after show chat. So I'll be hanging out there with you guys for a full hour. And yeah, that's about it. Syb, thank you so much as always for coming on the show. It's an absolute delight. I got to come on your show at some point. I gotta go off on some of those Silent Hill rumors. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, until next week, guys, when we do this again, I just want to ask you to stay safe. And until next Wednesday, just remember, stay yellow.